Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Business of Property. I'm your host, Cheryl Leong from Property Development Australia. I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So at the Business of Property, we interview superstar guests in the property development space, share their expertise, their deals, their stories to help empower, build, and grow our community of developers. So hello, Facebook land, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Give me a shout out if you're here with us today in the comments section. So our guest today, Tony Meredith, does not need a huge introduction because he is no stranger to the business of property. In fact, it was probably about 3 years ago, Tony and I first launched our first business of property session together, and Tony's not here to stand up for himself, but I believe he walked away from me after that not long. jokes aside, but I'd love to have Tony join me today on the Business of Property dance floor, because we are talking deals, and finding and building your deal finding machine. Property developers, I'm sure that is the thing that you really want to know more about. So without further ado, Tony, please join me.
Hello, Cheryl. Hello, everyone. Here I am again. It's exciting. And I didn't want to walk away from you, Cheryl. Let me just clarify nice and early.
No, you didn't. We decided that we would do our own thing. It's not about you or not about me, but here we are again, as always. Right?
We are. In fact, we were just saying off air that last time I was here was back in January, and I was in the middle of having COVID. So I'm up, I'm better, I'm out and about. So it's great to be here, and I'm pleased that I've got full health and ready to give to your audience tonight.
It's great to have you here, and good to know that you are well. So for those of you who do not know Tony, and if you don't, you've really been hiding somewhere, probably in isolation or in lockdown. So, I understand. But Tony, tell us a little bit about your background in property and in development, so that we can get a bit of context around your experience in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the posts that I do here are around mindset and coaching and whatnot. So people won't know that I'm actually involved in property myself. So my journey started in property, in fact, many, many years ago. So back in 2001, my wife and I bought our very first property. We went on to buy a few others, did a few renovations. Some worked, some were disasters. But property development specifically, I did a course at the end of 2015. I know a few of your viewers here were in the same course as me. So we had a wonderful group of people back then. And I bought my first project, a 1 into 2, in start of 2016, and then went on to do another. And I'm currently in a project an hour north of Brisbane. It's 2 hectares. We're slowly working our way through it. It's taking its time, but we're getting there ever so slowly. So I'm involved in property development. In fact, I'm up to my neck in it, to be honest. And so when I do my posts, whilst yes, it might come from a mindset perspective, but I actually, I have skin in the game, so to speak. Look, I'm business coach. So, so today I've got a coaching business, Tony Meredith Coaching. And about a third of my clients come from people in property, and about 2/3 of my clients come from people in business, small business, medium-sized business specifically.
Yeah, but the thing that actually I want, two things we want to be able to celebrate. So number one, Tony, before we came online, you said it's your 4-year anniversary, not wedding anniversary, right?
No.
What's the anniversary for?
Tomorrow is 4 years since I left employment and started full self-employment. So full-time, on my own, doing this, doing other things as well in the last 4 years. So tomorrow's the 4-year anniversary that I walked away from a job. So I was actually just sitting here preparing a post for LinkedIn. Don't normally do many of the social media posts, even though my business does a lot of posts. I don't normally write them. I've got my team that do it, but this one's particularly special. So I was just taking a few moments before I came on air to craft what I'm going to write tomorrow. But yeah, 4 years, it's amazing. Time flies. I wouldn't say that it's all been beer and skittles, Cheryl. We're having a chat about it. And look, there's certainly been heaps of ups, but there's been plenty of downs as well. And, being a coach going through COVID has certainly had its fair share of challenges. But I was just reflecting that each and every day I get out of bed the same way, regardless of what's going on. And I've taught myself a process, a method. I've got a routine that I just bound out of bed and get into it. Life throws a whole lot of things my way, but I'm able to deal with most of them.
Yeah, and so congratulations, Tony. And you know, I've known you for I think three and a bit years now, and absolutely, you're right. It's been it's been quite a roller coaster for so many aspects of your life, and it's great to be able to see, you know, like you said, we talk about property and whether you're coaching property or business, we want to be able to look at property and development as a business, and hence why we're here today, because like business, you know, having clients or having deals, more so deals like business, having deals and consistent pipeline of deals to be able to fuel your development pipeline is absolutely crucial to your development business.
Oh, look, absolutely. If you go to any business, and I was thinking about an example that I could share with people. The most simple example that I could share with people is Macca's. You know, McDonald's is run by 17-year-old kids. They're running multi-million-dollar businesses, and they're able to do it because there's systems and processes. I met my wife at McDonald's many years ago. Separate story, but that's how I know firsthand how the systems and processes work in McDonald's. And so they do it so beautifully, and regardless of what you think of the nutritional value of the food, but the systems, the process, the training, etc., is something that we can all take on board and incorporate in our own business. And you and I started this very podcast, or this very show, you know, some 3.5 years ago, and it was purely on the back of, we saw people who were treating property like a hobby. And you and I had a catch up. We had a few catch ups, and we said, you know what? There's a real opportunity here to get people to start to think about this like a business, and deal finding is no different. You know, when you want to go and find deals, you want to think about it like a business, and we're going to go into that a whole lot more depth over the next hour or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you touched on very, very briefly, you coach property developers, and what are the main things that you'll find? What's the number one pain point that you find with property developers and deals?
Sure. So the number one pain point is that people aren't clear. So they're not clear on what it is that they're going for. They know that they want to go and create some wealth in property, but they haven't really thought specifically about that, and they haven't then built the plan in between the two. So that's a big one. The other comes around limiting beliefs, the stories that we're telling ourselves, the fears of failure, the fear of being criticized by other people, and giving up. Just giving up, just saying it's all too hard, it's not for me, and having a scarce mindset as opposed to a growth mindset. So they're the big things, Cheryl, that come up. There's some other minor things that come up, but really the big ones are that, you know, people aren't truly clear on what they're even doing in the first place, what they want in the first place.
Okay, so you've got some fans here commenting. Tony, superstar coach, so grateful for Tony. Hi, Tony. Hello. No one said hello to me yet. It'll come. We're still going to.
Because I sent Mum the links. I'm so delighted that she's found the link, Cheryl, and she's commenting away.
Excellent, fantastic. So we've got the mind. That's the mindset side of things. So is this, you know, how do we get really clear on what we're looking for? Because we're not just talking about the mechanics of deal finding. We're going back to the core foundations of, you know, what am I starting with?
Yeah, I've got a number of phases, Cheryl. And so the first phase, I call it the personal phase. And the personal phase is about understanding why you want to do it in the first place. So within development, or within renovation, or within rooming accommodation, my view is that the hardest part of either of those strategies is finding a profitable deal. You can find a deal, there's deals everywhere, but can you find a profitable deal? And ultimately we're doing it because we want to make money. So it's the hardest part, right? There's other bits that are challenging as well. And so it's a case of understanding, why do you even want to go and do this in the first place? Because it's challenging. And if you're not clear on what your why is, what your reason is, then you're going to give up. And I see it all too often where people don't have that connectedness to their why, then it all becomes too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And so once we've established our why, and the reason why we're in property, for example, what's the next step from there? Because I'm wanting to get to a point where we're starting to talk about the deals, because that's what people are like, well,
Absolutely. So, yeah. So what we
straight in.
Well, so it depends on where you're at, but look, the big one is to get clear on your strategy, right? Again, go back to what I said before when you said to me, hey, what are some of the challenges that people experience? It's about doing heaps of stuff, being all over the place and not being clear on what it is that they're trying to find. So it's all around being narrow-minded, narrow focus of what it is that you're doing, get clear on the strategy. So every strategy can work. Like we could bring on people here who have been successful in small land subdivision, townhouses, units, co-living, renovating. Like every strategy works. It's just not every strategy works in every suburb, and not every strategy works in every suburb at the same time. So it's about identifying what's the strategy that's going to resonate with you. Now, there's a whole range of factors that you do to consider this, because some strategies are easier, some are more complex, some take longer, some are shorter. So some are more hands-on, some are outsourced to consultants. So you really need to understand what's the right strategy for you. And then it's also about what's your financial strategy, right? So unless you're going to be doing options, the chances are that you're going to be buying the property. So what's your financial strategy as well? So you take the time up front to get clear on what your direction is.
Yeah, absolutely. And once we've done that, clear on strategy, is this the point we get clear on what the criteria is of the type of property?
Absolutely. So then it's about doing your research, right? So then it's about the research phase is around now starting to figure out, I've got clear on my strategy, which council, because different councils have different town plans. We're very lucky here in Brisbane. Brisbane is, I think it's the biggest council in the Southern Hemisphere. In other parts of the country, councils might have anywhere between 12 and 20 odd suburbs, but in Brisbane there's 190 plus anyway. So Brisbane's a bit different, but in other parts of the country, it's about getting clear on a council, because each council has slight variations, and particularly when you're starting out, you don't want to be trying to understand town plans here and town plans there and town plans there, because they're all going to be different. And so you're just going to confuse yourself. You're going to just go round and round in circles and ultimately get really frustrated because you're not making progress. So it's about council. Then from there, it's about identifying the suburbs within the council. So even if you've got a council that's, say, got 20 suburbs, still 20 suburbs is too many, right? Because the ultimate objective here is about speed. So we want to be fast from a deal finding point of view. And how do we get fast? We get fast because we're an area expert, because we've narrowed down our area, because we know that properties in that street will sell for this, and over there they're going to sell for this. Because even within a suburb, you take any suburb in the country, there'll be parts of the suburb where it's for principal place of residence. There'll be other parts where it's for renters. Some will be more premium. Others will be lower, socio-demographic, or whatever it might be. Just within one suburb, there's all these variations. So a property is not going to sell the same at every single point across the suburb. So it's about becoming an area expert, and the way in which you do that is to, again, narrow your focus. It's counterintuitive in the sense of that people will say, well, if I cast my net as wide as I possibly can, surely I've got to find something, right? And the reality is that, well, no, you won't, because you're going to burn up too much time trying to figure out the price that I need to pay for that particular property. So it's about really honing and narrow down on the suburbs that you're going to focus on.
Yeah, I touched on this a while ago in a post that I made around being an area expert and focusing on a few areas, because there's, something that you raised, very, very true. Because if you're not an area expert, you're wasting a lot of time trying to research and understand the planning, what properties are selling for and all of that, and then trying to speak to. So you're almost having to redo all the research again to try to understand. I mean, if you've got the benefit of Brisbane City Council, where you're across a whole council, well, the planning site's not so bad, but then the individual suburb breakdown is another.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because again, if you're selecting a council, say in Sydney, and it's got 15 suburbs, it's not going to take you that long to whittle down to 3, 4, maybe 5 suburbs. Where in Brisbane, you got to go through 190 of them, right? Now, obviously,
Yeah.
there's some, you might have some price brackets that sort of, knock some out quickly, maybe some near the river, north, whatever it might be, but still you've got a lot of suburbs to churn your way through. So whilst, yes, in one regard, it's great because we know that all of Brisbane is under the one town plan, but then you've also got to go through a lot of suburbs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get clear on our locations and all. So where are people still getting stuck there, Jeremy? So we've got clear on our criteria of what we're looking for. We know our strategy, but we still get this point where people are going, I can't find property.
Well, I think look, part of it here, Cheryl, at this point is that right up until, it depends on what type of personality you are, right? In case, for those who are just meeting me for the first time, I'm a talker. And so I like to talk to people. I like to meet people. I know you shocked, Cheryl. We were talking about it off air where, I like to connect with people, network, etc. And so if you're like me, then you want to race straight to that bit. And right now, at the bit that we're talking about, the research, the analysis, well, that's behind the computer. That's doing spreadsheets and all this stuff that, quite frankly, for me, is snooze-worthy. However, it's absolutely important and essential to do, because if you go and skip a step, then it's going to catch up with you down the track. So it's about recognizing, so why do people get stuck? Well, one of them is that, maybe there's at this point that you go, hang on a second, is there a solution for me from a research point of view, like someone like me who doesn't like doing it, but is there someone that can help me do it? And, potentially that's an organization like yours who can, help from a research, and so be the right-hand person to a property developer.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that point as well. A lot of people that I meet in terms of developers, particularly in this community where people are still probably working full-time or part-time. So time tends to be a big factor, a big stumbling block, because you're going, I just don't have enough time to spend on researching. I can only look on realestate.com or domain. Everyone's paying too much. So how do we get over that stumbling block? I know you mentioned, probably in terms of what we do is we help developers. They outsource the shortlisting of properties. But what else? I mean, what's the practical thing? Because a lot of people going on realestate.com, online property searches. What are the other options there?
Okay, so let me just touch on time ever so quickly, because you raised it. So for me, I talk about time mastery. So people talk about time management, those that work with me, and I can see a few of you there. And it wasn't Mum, by the way, who said that comment. Thank you, Vanessa. I really appreciate it. So it was Vanessa who said it, and anyway, a number of others. So thank you so much. So within time, there's two elements that I talk about. So the first element with time is what I call quantity time. So that is, if you want to get going in property, or if you already get going in property, you need to allocate time to do this, right? It might be 5 hours, it might be 10 hours, it might be 15, whatever your circumstance, you have to allocate time. The second thing with time is what I call quality time. That is, now that, let's say I've gone and found 10 hours in my week, and here's the thing, 168 hours in any given week. So I've gone and found 10 hours in amongst all the things that I do. But with that 10 hours, how do I make sure that I'm squeezing every last drop of that 10 hours? So that's the quality side of things with time. So it's important to, how do we go and master time is absolutely critical in this. And if I go back to my journey, like I was getting up at 4 a.m. In the morning. I did that for about 18 or so, maybe a bit longer actually. I got up at that time today, but by accident, not by design. But back when I was doing this, because I had a full-time job, I was getting up at 4 a.m. to be able to fit all of these bits and pieces in before I then take myself off to my day job. So mastering time is essential if you want to create a deal finding machine.
Yeah, okay. So there's the time aspect. So we've sort of addressed that. And the next one is I just can't find the deals.
So where do I find them? So we've gone through, we've said suburbs. Now within the suburbs, you want to find properties that meet your criteria. So again, within a suburb, there might be, there's thousands and thousands of properties, but not all of them will meet your criteria. So this comes back to what's your strategy. get really vividly clear around what are the things that I'm looking for. And it's a case of, they said it in the Bible, Cheryl, and that is, seek and you shall find, right? And so the clearer that you can be on what it is that you're looking for, then guess what happens? Miraculously, you're actually seeing it everywhere. And in fact, it's more than just, is it a biblical phrase? It's actually part of our anatomy. So we have in the base of our brain, at the top of our spine, what's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. I'm not sure if your viewers have heard of that. And what it does is that our minds can't possibly compute all of the things that are going on around us. And so your RAS is letting in things that it thinks that you want to have let in, and discarding things that it doesn't think are essential. Right, and so the best example of this is when you go and get yourself a new car. You might get yourself a Toyota or a Mazda or a Ferrari or whatever the car is, and all of a sudden you're now seeing Toyotas or Holdens or whatever it is everywhere you go, because your RAS is now kicked in. So the same applies when you're finding property. You want to open the RAS up and have it fixate on the things that you want to search for, and guess what? Then all of a sudden you'll be finding them everywhere. So it's about identifying your properties. Look, you touched on what I call the start of the deal attraction phase. And so what that is for me, there's 5 ways at the high level, 5 ways that you're going to go and find a property, right? So we've gone and done our research, we've gone and done our strategy, all those things. There's 5 ways. You touched on one of them, which is not my preferred way, and that's online research, right? So the reason why it's not my preferred way is because online research is what I call reactive, not proactive. So that means that when you might go to realestate.com, set up an alert, you're looking for 800 square metre blocks or whatever the size is in this particular suburb, but you're going to see it with everybody else, right? So you, again, go back to what was the number one objective that I said before around finding deals? Speed. So how do you then beat the other people, beat your competitors, get to it fast enough when you're getting it at the same time as everyone else? So you've got to come up with a strategy to be able to do that. So there's a couple of terrific strategies. So the first one, and again, this is in no particular order. The first one is real estate agents. They are your friends. Change your meaning around how you deal with real estate agents. Cheryl, the number of people that I come across that have an absolute fear, bordering on phobia, of real estate agents is staggering. Right? And so it's about, and I look, respectfully, I understand it, right? I understand why that's the case, but it's part of my job to help people change the meaning around a real estate agent and recognise they're just people doing their job, representing the vendor, and they're just out there trying to sell a property, and we're out there trying to buy a property. And when you start to change the meaning that you apply to real estate agents, all of a sudden you'll see them in a very different light.
Sorry to interrupt there, Tony. Why do we have this fear of agents? Because they're not big and scary and.
Well, so they are to some of us. So it's a fear. Perhaps it's a fear of being. So their negotiation skills. So remember that a real estate agent is trained. Like they are trained, and the good ones. They are trained, and they are trained, and they are trained. They're trained to overcome objections. They're trained to sell. They're trained to close the sale. Right, they're trained. You know, a lot of us have this phobia, or this meaning around they're going to outsmart me. Right, they're going to perhaps get me to buy something that I don't want. Perhaps they're going to be saying things to me that I don't have the answers for. So I have this fear of maybe not dealing with the objections or being rejected, etc. I'm worried if I go and put a low offer in, what they're going to say to me, what they're going to think about me. All these things. And so when you put all that into a pot and you mix it up, then this is why people have an absolute fear of real estate agents. And it is common. Like it has surprised me, since I've got into the coaching side of things 4 years ago, it really has surprised me the number of people that have this fear. But it's also about recognizing that some people, look, go back to what I said before around, I don't like the research, I like to get to the talking bit, whereas there's plenty of people who would love doing the research and don't like the talking bit, right? And so it's about recognizing that, we're all different, and that's what makes us all special and unique. So it's about how do we then go and firstly change the meaning around the agent, but then also start to develop some skills to build relationships.
And this sort of reminds me of the conversation that we had with Scott and Vanessa in a previous episode of the Business of Property where, Scott said, really, I like the sort of the technical side and putting the deals in the project management side, not really a big talker. Whereas Vanessa had a really good sort of a complementary skill, which she's an absolute networker and a connector as well. And so always look the point is to look for the solutions. If you feel you don't really have a strong confidence to speak to people, maybe joint venture with someone as well. There's always a solution. That's the point.
Absolutely. So you can go and upskill yourself. But if it's something that for you really is maybe a bridge too far, then you're right. Then find people who can complement your skills, and that's all part of business, right? So in business, what you don't want is you don't want to have people who are with you that have the same attributes, because what that means is that so I'm not sure if your viewers are familiar with, say, the DISC personality profile. What it means is that you've got two people who are the same, who are, they might be high Ds and they're just charging ahead and they're dominant and they're just making decisions. But you haven't got people who are here just slowing them down, being steady, being more conservative. So it's actually important. It's the yin and the yang, right? It's about having those complementary skills so that 1 and 1 can equal 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone's commented, end of the day, agents want listings also, and it's developers who create a lot of those listings. Very easy to collaborate and get agents working with you. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. But again, that's changed the meaning, right? So that's about when you change the meaning to this is just another person who is doing their job, and how can I, in that instance, how can I collaborate with them? Well, now you don't look at people as being so scary, right? But it's because we have this fear of agents that really does trip a lot of people up, particularly early on until they build the confidence.
Yeah. So we've talked about online, we've talked about real estate agents, building relationships with them. And what's the next one?
Well, just with real estate agents, there's a couple of key things that I suggest to people to do with real estate agents. Building relationships is the first one, and that's around know, like, and trust. It's about building a deep relationship, and I get all of my clients, and they'll know every 2 weeks, and it's about that personal contact, right? I'm really big on personal contact, on building a relationship. Again, how do I cut through all the noise? How do I make sure that I'm the person that gets that deal as opposed to the other people? Again, how do I have that speed? How can I do it quickly? Well, I've got to do things differently. Now, I'm just doing the same as everyone else, then I'm just going to be part of the pack. So I want to differentiate myself. The other way that you can deal with real estate agents is you can potentially get them to go and knock on a few doors for you, right? So you build a relationship, but then also leverage them. Go back to the comment that the viewer just said, agents are looking to get listings. Well, let's help them get some listings by saying, well, hey, you know what? Here's 5 properties that I've identified. I'd love for you to go and knock on that door for me, and let's see if we can't do a deal. So that's another way that you can deal with real estate agents. The next way to build out your deal finding machine is direct. Cut out the agent. Go direct. Cut out the middle person. Go direct to the vendor, and you go direct to them. So the way in which I suggest my clients do that is through letters, and like letter writing is an absolute science, right? And so it's not just doing a letter and hitting and hoping. Like, there is so much involved in letter writing. That's one way. Another way, if you're brave enough, is go and knock on the door. So you've identified some properties, go to the street, knock on the door, and have a chat to people directly. So but look, again, that's not everyone's cup of tea, but certainly the letter writing is my preferred method.
Absolutely, and that's something that we get involved in quite a bit for developers, and we've seen some really extraordinary results because one, when someone's looking after their project or they're working, they've got a bit of a machine that's happening, looking for potential sites for them, shortlists, and then sending the letters. So how many, they start then sending letters. Like, how many letters does it take to get a deal, or how often?
So I got a photo, a text from a client of mine the other day. I'm not sure if she's watching or not. She sent me this text. She had just gone and printed off 20,000 letters. That is 2 followed by 4 zeros, right? 20,000 letters. So how How many does it take? Well, look, how long's a piece of string, right? But here's the point, that when you go and send letters, right, one of the big things I get back from people is, Tony, I went and sent those letters once and it doesn't work. Now, the reality is that when you go and send letters, you're going to get on average a 5% return rate. So if you go and send 100 letters, you're going to get 5 people come back to you. Perhaps 2 of them are going to want to just extract a price, and maybe the rest of them are, semi, interested in what it is that you've got to say. So at that point, there's only 2 ways that you can increase the number of responses that you get. So one is send more letters. Now, maybe don't go and send 20,000 letters at once, and nor is that particular client going to do that. But send more letters, right? So if it's a 5% rate of return, then if you go and send 200 letters, now all of a sudden you're getting 10 responses back, right? So you're increasing the volume. The other way, and this is go back to the comment I said a moment ago around the science of letter writing, is that there are so many variables with letter writing. And so by tweaking some of those variables, I can now take my rate of return from 5% to 8%. And if I take it to 8% and then go and send more letters, well, now when I send 200 letters, perhaps I can get 16 responses as opposed to the 10 that I just did a moment ago. And then when you send 500, so on and so forth. So it's about volume, but then it's also about the quantity, but also about the quality as well, and really challenging yourself on the different elements of writing a letter.
And you also mentioned not just sending one letter, looking at, at the end of the day, it's a form of marketing.
So it's more marketing, yeah. But think about it so one of the things that I pride myself on, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm meeting people, whatever, is I always, and perhaps this is my sales training, but I always am thinking about what the other person is thinking, right? What are they thinking? What are they saying? What are they going to do? Think about this when you go and send, let me go back. When someone uses a real estate agent, they've made the decision to use a real estate agent. Now, for those people who've gone and sold a property before, it's a big decision. Like, it's a big psychological decision to go and use a real estate agent. Now, if you are a direct owner, you're on a large block of land and you're sitting on your back deck, and all of a sudden some developer lobs up and gives you a letter, you haven't gone through the psychology of getting yourself ready to sell. So what happens is we go and send a letter the first time, and as a homeowner, I mightn't be ready to sell. I might be happy on my back deck. I love doing the mowing, and everything's great. And so hence I take your letter and I throw it in the bin. Now, if you're one of those developers who sends a letter only once and then throws your hands in the air and says, well, this doesn't work, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to miss out. And so back to your original question, which is every 2 months. So every 2 months, you want to be sending another letter. 2 months, 2 months, 2 months, 2 months, 2 months, 2 months. Just keep sending letters until you get told to send no more letters, right? And the whole idea then is to change up the letters. Again, go back to the different elements of letter writing. Don't just keep blasting out the same letter, because that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Whereas vary things. Like you said, it's marketing. Like, this is all about marketing, and how do I, create the urgency or create a reason for that person who's sitting on their back deck to all of a sudden go, you know what, I'm going to call this person, right? Now, that's from a letter point of view, but also then the homeowner's circumstances change. So they mightn't be ready to sell today. They mightn't be ready to sell in 2 months' time. But in 6 months' time, they might be ready. Maybe something's happened. Maybe someone needs to relocate. Maybe someone's got crook. Maybe they need some money. Maybe, who knows, right? There's a whole range of reasons as to things have changed then. Now, if you just go and send one letter or maybe 2, you do it for 2 months, you're going to miss out down the track when someone's circumstances have changed.
Yeah, and I'll share a story. This is from my own personal deal. I remember sending some letters out, and it was the first lot of letters, and there was a particular property that I was really keen to secure. It was 100 acres, Tony, so it was a big block.
Big one, yeah.
And I didn't get a response, and I said, well, okay, I'll make sure that I send the second one. And thankfully, the owner rang me the next day after they received the letter. I said, fantastic. But obviously I phrased the letter differently. And I said, oh, how, did you receive the first letter? And they said, no, I didn't. I hadn't received, and we didn't get the first letter at all. This is the first one I received. So it's a clear reminder, that sometimes people just don't get the first one.
Exactly, right. But again, that's also about having the growth mindset and the never give up attitude. So I can give an example of a client of mine who secured a property, and they secured it after sending 6 letters, a year's worth of letters, and they secured a property. Right now, most of us will give up. We'll throw our hands in the air and we'll give up. But that person, and again, that comes back to the machine, right? The machine is that this is a process. Let's take all of our emotion. Let's put all of our emotion at the door, and let's focus on my process. And when you have a process, when you do things systematically and you just keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it, and you have the faith and the belief that I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track. I'm not there yet, but I'm on the right track and I'm doing all the right things. And I know that I will find that property that's got my name on it.
Yeah. So, Tony, what's your suggestion to keep on top of the frequency of the letters to begin with?
Yep, track them. I use a spreadsheet. All my clients get access to the spreadsheet. Track the letters, track where you send it, track when you send it, track the type of letter that you send, again, the variabilities within the letter, track all of those things, then track the feedback. So then who rang you back? Who told you don't send any more? Who wanted to know about the price? You track the interaction, then track when you send it again. Go and do the same process, track it again. It's the case of you get what you measure. And this applies in business as it does in property. You get what you measure. So track all the things that you're doing. Now, there's a few reasons why we track. A, because we want to know where we're at with certain conversations. But B, you want to make sure that you're doing all the activities and the actions that are taking you to where you want to get to. So if you sit there and say, well, I'm finding it hard to get a property, or I feel like I'm not getting close to a property, go and look at your spreadsheet. Have a look at what's happening with your actions. Are your actions aligned to your goal of achieving a property? And what I say to my clients is you want to rate yourself. Rate yourself. How's your effort going? Right? Out of 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, rate your effort. And if you're being honest with yourself and your effort is a 5 or a 6 out of 10, then I'm sorry, you're not going to find the property. Like, I'm just going to be it's that blunt, right? Whereas if your effort is like, you know what, I'm sending the letters and I'm, doing the phone calls and I'm a 9 out of 10, you are so close.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying do it for 1 week and go, well, this bloke came on Facebook the other week and he said, do that, send these letters and do calls. It's not for 1 week, right? It's about do it and do it and do it and keep going and keep going, and you will get so close to finding that particular property.
Absolutely. What's it saying about 2 feet from gold?
It's actually 3 feet, but I like to 2 feet's even closer, right? So 3 feet from gold.
See, Tony, so
you know why? Because over the years, you and I have got closer, right? So we've got closer to the gold. So you and I are now 2 feet away. We started off at 3. So where it came from is it came from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. So for those of you who haven't read it, I really encourage you to read it. Look, it's about 90 years old, the book. But the concepts and the principles that Napoleon Hill talks about in that book are just as relevant today as they were back then. 3 feet from gold is, if you think back to when it was written 90 odd years ago about miners, so miners with a hard hat on and they pick and they're digging for gold, they dig. Let's say they've gone and dug 97 feet, right? They're digging this tunnel and they're going, no, there's no gold here. And they give up. And what happens is they don't know that they're that close to their gold. Like, you can't see the gold, right? But it's about the faith and the belief. So they give up. They give up 3 feet from gold. And the reality is that most of us, at the end of our lives, will finish our lives being 3 feet from gold. Right? Now, not the people here on Property Development Australia, but the majority of people will finish their lives being 3 feet from gold. It's incredibly sad. And what that means is that they gave up just short. They didn't realise how close they were. They gave up. Now, here's the kicker. If you knew that you were 3 feet from gold, then you'd keep going, right? Because if I know that I'm 3 feet from gold, then you'd be with your hands, you'd be digging, you'd do whatever you could because you're 3 feet away. You don't know that you're 3 feet away, right? And so that's where the faith and the belief comes in, to know that I'm doing the right things, I'm doing my process, and I'm on the right track. And this is a I call it macro patience, micro activity. So macro patience is be patient for the outcome. Micro activity is do the right things, be incredibly productive with your time, but be patient for the outcome.
Yeah. I want to just pinpoint again, as few people said, love Napoleon Hill, fantastic principles to apply today. And yeah, and a century ago. I want to highlight that point you made around, there was something else, and I've just lost it because I was reading the comments. I will get back to it. But
Three letters. Luke's 3 letters from gold. So there you are, mate. So Luke's 3 letters from gold. So that's it. Tomorrow morning, get those 3 letters out there, and then you'll reach your goal. But
so I remember what it was, sorry, Tony. Before I forget, it was around that knowing, that you know that it's there on the other side. There's a difference to actually knowing and having that sort of almost sort of blind trust and belief, and keeping on track.
Well, it's cool. Right? It's good.
Like, it's not going to happen. I'm not really sure. That sort of vague fog. Whereas you sort of go, well, the fog parts, and then you've got, the pot of gold there.
So here's the reality, right? So all of us, we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and this is something I'm going to really get into for those who are going to join me on Saturday, and for those who work with me directly, you're already aware of this. So we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. So consciously, you might be saying, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I can find this property. I can do whatever. But subconsciously, if you've got some doubts, right, and it's your subconscious mind that if it's got some doubt, if it doesn't quite believe, right, then it's not going to happen for you. So this is all around programming or reprogramming your subconscious mind, so that with every inch of your being, you believe that you can do this thing. And you are, not only do you believe it, you are doing it. And you are, like, you can almost reach out and touch it, And so that's the absolute belief, where you start to have some doubts, and then what happens is we get the little voices come in, you're not good enough, leave it to someone else, go back to your job, this is what happens. And then all of a sudden these voices get louder and louder and louder and louder, whereas it's about having absolute belief that you're on the right track, that you are doing the right things, and that it's simply a matter of just keep going with the process, and it's time and patience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, we talked about the letters.
Yep.
And then it's the fun bit, like when people are calling up and actually saying, hi, I've got your letter. What do you want?
Oh my gosh, there's another step? Like, I don't just... So absolutely.
Can we just get the deal?
So look, having spent 25 years of my life in sales, and I suppose I'm still in sales now because I have a business and I'm always looking to sell my services. But the point is that in sales, you are trained to prepare before your meeting, right? You're trained to prepare before you go and do your presentation, etc. So my advice to everybody is think about, what are you going to say when the inevitable phone call happens? Even if it's only 5% return on your letters, you're not sending out the letters to make Australia Post rich. You're sending out the letters so that you get a response, so that you can then have a chat to somebody. So think about what it is that you're going to say, and that's really about building a relationship with people, not going straight in to go I want to buy your property. How much because typically what will happen, you go.
So I was going to say, shall we do a dummy call?
We can do a dummy call. We can do a dummy call if you want to.
A 5-minute dummy call. Okay, so I'm going to call. I'm the homeowner of a property in Brisbane. It's 1,000 square meters. I'm a little old lady, obviously, and I ring up and I get this letter from Tony. I'm like, hello.
Yeah. Hello there, little old lady Cheryl. Look, thank you so much for calling me. Hey, what was it that prompted you to give me a call?
I got this letter in the mail. It was all drenched. And it says that you want to buy my property. How much do you want to pay for it?
Look, before I get into that, I just want to have a chat about your property specifically. Is that okay if we do that?
Okay, but the agent told me it's $2 million. Are you going to pay $2 million?
Oh, look, I need to understand a bit more about what's going on first. So, look, so I'd love to have a chat to you about this. Look, is there, and so can I just pause here? So the opportunity here is, if you can, it's great if you can get face-to-face, right? So you want to get face-to-face, and why face-to-face? Because right now, like we're doing a Zoom call, and so you can see people's body language, right? And so you want to see what's going on for someone, and you really don't get to the full sense of that unless you're face-to-face. So if we can, so, hey, look, I'd love to have a chat to you about your property. Is there a time that I could come over and inspect the property?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to ask my son. He's in charge of the property side of things.
Okay. Look, he's more than welcome to come there. When do you think you might get a chance to speak to him?
Probably on the weekend after supper, and then we'll have the grandkids over, and then they'll have a bit of a play, and maybe we can have a chat on Sunday.
Yeah, terrific. Well, look, do that on Sunday. What I'll do is, if it's okay with you, I'll give you a call on Monday and we can see if we can arrange a time. How's that sound?
Okay, but are you going to pay $2 million?
I just want to come and see the property first, and I want to see this drenched letter, right? So the point there is that you don't want to go down the path of getting into the price debate straight away, right? In the sense of most homeowners will, like you've done, will say, give me the price. I just want to know, what are you going to pay for this property? And you want to deflect, you want to defer, and hopefully that was valuable to people, just seeing a little bit of that in action. But it's a case of, because let's be honest, in order to provide a price, we do need to do a little more research on the property, right? You need to have a little more facts. I mean, you've got some facts, right? But you need to do a little more, fact finding before you can come up with a particular price. And so that's where, now if someone keeps going at you talking about a price, what you can say there is, look, is there a particular price that you've got in mind? And they'll say, no, I've never thought of it before, which we all know is BS, right? but they'll say that, right? The next thing that you can do is to ask for a price range.
Yeah.
Look, I appreciate you mightn't have thought about it before, but is there a range that you could think of for your property, to sell your property for, right? And again, they mightn't come at that. So then, because we're trying to tease out of them some price, because the idea is to say, hey, listen, I do this for a business. This is my business. And I'm going to pay you fair market value. Maybe in some cases I can pay above market value. But in order to help me so that I'm not wasting your time and my time, I'd really appreciate if you could give me a range to work on.
Yeah, and I'd say as well, I mean, I noted that the little old lady has a son who sounds like he's involved in the property side of things as well, in terms of selling or whichever. So I'd also recommend to ensure that he's there, and if there's anyone else there that's part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a business tip for everybody, but when you go and qualify a potential new customer in business, right, there is a framework that I get my clients to use, and it's called CHAMP, CHAMP. CH stands for challenges, right? What are the challenges? Again, this is in a business setting, but where I'm going with this, the A is for authority. Who is the authority? Who is making the decision, right? So if it's your son, if it's your daughter, if it's your neighbor, it doesn't matter who it is, but who is going to be making the decision, because we want to be talking to that person as quickly as we, like when I say quickly, as fast as we can get to the decision maker. That doesn't mean that we're going to come to a decision straight away, but I want to talk to the person who's going to be having the decision, right? The M in the example I gave you talks about money, and then the P talks about priority, and priority talks about when do you want to buy this particular service. So you can take some of that framework that applies to business and look at applying it here in this instance. So you can if we think about it, and I've done this before, so I'm doing it live on TV. But the CH challenges, you can start to understand around the property. What are the good things? What are the things that you've enjoyed about the property? What are the things that you'd like to change? Again, you're just having conversation to start to bring down the guard. Authority, we just talked about that. Money, we touched on that side of things. We want to try and extract the price. P for priority. When? So if you're interested in selling, when would you be looking at moving? What would you be thinking about doing? Would you like to perhaps rent back off me, or would you like to go straight away, or you want to go next year? Or, so there's some elements of that you could incorporate in your conversations.
Fantastic, Tony. I'm aware that it's about 10 to 8, and I do want to talk about, like, I know you'll be covering a lot of this deal finding and an event that you have this weekend. Can you tell us a little bit? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so this Saturday I'm doing what I've called Property Unleashed. So this will be the 4th time that we've run it. So it's virtual. It's this Saturday, and so what we do is what I do is I take you through a framework for sustainable change. So there's 8 steps to sustainable change, and I'm going to take you through that because we all want to change. We want to have a different outcome, and so what are the things that I need to be doing to ensure that I can change and change for the better, right? And I want to have sustainable change. And so that's what we're going to go through on Saturday. After lunch, I'm going to go through deal finding. I'm going to get a little bit deep into deal finding, and so giving people some tips and tricks and other things that they can build on. We've talked about some of them here tonight. We'll build on them a whole lot more on Saturday. It's virtual. It goes all day, so from 8 o'clock my time in Brisbane. So if you're in Sydney, it's 9 o'clock in other parts of the country. So 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock Brisbane time this Saturday. And I think you're going to put the link into the show notes. Dive onto the landing page, and if you're interested, then register, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Awesome. And then outside of that, if people are interested to have ongoing sort of coaching with you, Tony, what are the options there? So
there's 2 other ways. So one is individually. And so individual coaching is my most expensive service that I offer because it's one-on-one time with me. And so if you're interested in individual coaching, the benefits of that is that everything is tailored for you. We do it in a private setting. Obviously, it's you and I. I have clients all around the country, so we're doing Zoom calls. If you're in Brisbane, you can come and see me in my office. But if you're around the country, don't worry, we do Zoom calls, and I've been doing this for 4 years, as I mentioned earlier. So individual coaching is my most expensive offering. Alternatively, if that's not for you, or if it's a little bit outside of your budget, then group coaching. So we do group coaching, and I've got a number of my group coaching clients here today and cheering on. I've got a few of my individual coaching clients as well. But the group coaching is we do a little bit of individual coaching, not much, but we do more group coaching. And so we do it in a group setting. We meet every second Wednesday. So we're meeting tomorrow night. So those of you who are listening, go to bed after this because we're on tomorrow night. But we meet every second Wednesday night. There's also access to a whole learning platform. So we've got all sorts of videos, downloadables, all of the spreadsheets that I talked about before, the tracking spreadsheets. If you want to know what to say to people, you can download those. If you want to know some letters that you can send to people, we've got those as well. So we're really building out our online platform. It's relatively new, but we're really proud of the product that we're building for people. So individual coaching or group coaching is the 2 ways. But look, if you wanted to buy before you buy, so to speak, swing along on Saturday. It's pretty inexpensive comparatively. It's I think $79 for the day with me, and we do a whole lot of stuff. So it's you're going to be working. So have a good sleep Friday. You're going to be working. We've got workbooks. They're going to do live coaching, go through things specifically for you for a whole day. So it's an exciting event. And look, this is probably the last time I'll do it virtually. Then we'll go back and do things hopefully face to face sometime soon.
Yeah, and I've been to that session before as well, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it because I really like the whole mindset behind property and getting back to the essence of why are we doing this? Because at the end of the day, just with anything else like business, growing a property business, it has its challenges, and you need to be able to have a really strong why to be able to move forward. And then, like I said, the things that you touched upon, getting really clear on your strategy, and coming up with this repeatable process and system around finding deals and finding properties.
And that's what it is, because here's what happens. People get caught up in the emotion. And when you get caught up in the emotion, then you make wrong decisions, or you procrastinate. And I see so many people. So take, for example, we're talking about having a conversation direct with someone. So many people will sit on a potential property. They'll do the 𝐏𝐫𝐨𝐲, they'll do all this work and they'll be so emotionally invested in that particular deal, only to then submit an offer that's $400,000 apart.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time, right? And so the sooner, so this is about failing fast, failing forwards, but fail as fast as I can. So the sooner that I can fail something, then the more time I'm going to have to spend on the one that will work. But if I get emotional about something and I've been looking for so long for this property and I've got a scarce mindset and I don't think there's any other properties out there and this is the very last one in the whole wide world and I'm going to make this property work and I'm going to twist my 𝐏𝐫𝐸 and bend it, and it's called emotion, right? Whereas when you treat this like a business, when you have a process and you become incredibly unemotional about it, and it's not about being robotic about this, but it's about just going, this is my process. These are the things that I need to do, and I need to go through these steps. And when I do these steps without emotion and do them efficiently and effectively, then I will create phenomenal success for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Like I said, you definitely got your fans to come on board today. They're out in force. Tony is a super coach. I even haven't had a hello come through all evening. But that's okay. You are a superstar.
Can you please say hello to Cheryl? Right? I can't. I couldn't bear it, right? So
complex here.
Let's say hello. Look, my absolute pleasure, Cheryl. I hope that's been valuable to you. I hope it's been valuable to the people that have tuned in, and obviously there'll be those who haven't watched the live version. They'll get to watch the replay. But look, it's all around create a process, repeatable process for yourself, and just follow it. Just follow that process, and when you follow it consistently and persistently, success awaits you. It truly does.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tony and Cheryl. And then at the very end, whoever you are, thank you. Hello back to you.
Kerry Fuller. So, Kerry, I'm just looking at it here. So, Kerry said hello, Cheryl. So, there you go. So, you've got a hello. So,
I feel the love now. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thanks, Tony. All the best for this weekend. And anyone that needs to get in contact with Tony, I think his email popped up before. Otherwise, he is on Facebook. Drop a private message to him on Facebook. Tony@TonyMeredithCoaching.com.au. Excellent.
Very good.
Thanks, Tony. We'll see you again. And everyone else, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. Warren Buffett, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control money. Absolutely. If you enjoyed today's session and would like to listen on to the replay, please go on to my YouTube page, Cheryl Leong, not too hard to find, and you'll see all our past episodes of the Business of Property there. Like, subscribe, get the notifications, and we'll see you next week on the Business of Property. Take care, everyone, and keep well. Bye-bye.